Kyle Klingman with Track Wrestling with Mark Branch, two-time NCAA champion and four-time NCAA championship finalist, Wyoming head coach. But we're having you on because you were an assistant coach at Oklahoma State for the 2002-2003 Oklahoma State team, which won the NCAA championships. And we have the dynasty duels going right now. So right now it's 1997 University of Iowa championship team against Oklahoma State's 2003 NCAA championship team. You know those teams pretty well because you competed against 97 Iowa and you coached for Oklahoma State in 2003. But let's start with Oklahoma State. This was a team that won after not winning since 1994, which was a team that you were a part of. What do you remember about this 03 team and some of the dynamics? You had some guys like Zach Esposito didn't place that year. He was a freshman. He had done a good job. You had Skylar Holman, Johnny Thompson, and Jake Rosholt won it. Muhammad Alawal had transferred in. Your thoughts on this team?
You know, it was a young team that you talk about Zach Esposito. He was a big spark plug on that team, just wrestling as a true freshman and really having a lot of success. And I know he didn't have the finish that we hoped for, but those dynamics, those personalities started to come together. And, the biggest thing was, I think, overcoming our own ghosts and our own doubts, and that went back to 97, 98, 99. 97 was really the start of that, where we reemerged and had a great year and kind of ended that year as the favorite heading into the NCAAs. And then it's not that we, I'm sure we'll talk about this, not that we performed poorly in 97, but things didn't go well. And then 98, 99, things kind of snowballed. And then, there were so many years to go, gosh, we've got the team to do it, but can we get the job done when it matters? And there were a lot of people out there saying that Oklahoma State choked in those situations, and so we were battling those demons. And it took a special group of young guys that, like I said, these personalities that came together to overcome that, to go, that's not who we are. That's not what we're about. And I remember there was so much talk going on about, we had really emerged as the favorite again, but they were, a lot of people out there saying, when it matters, they're not going to get it done. And our guys were hearing that. I mean, it was loud. And they were hearing it, and we were hearing it as coaches, and really we had to put that to rest and really walk into that tournament with the utmost confidence to be able to win that championship.
You guys beat Minnesota. You scored 143 points to 104.5 for Minnesota, who got second, 7 All-Americans, 2 champs. But going back to 1997 through 99, you guys didn't lose a dual meet during that period and did not win the NCAA championships. Why do you think that was, that you were able to have such a great dual meet body of work, but at the NCAA championships you couldn't get it done?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think in 97, which was my senior year, I think we had a really great season. But I think in the back of our heads, we knew we weren't the best team. Lincoln McElravy was out most of the year with concussions, and we knew that he was going to be back. And I'm not saying that we had our doubts, but I knew we didn't feel like the favorites, even though we were the favorites. And then Iowa put together, it was kind of that perfect storm. Gable was announcing his retirement. He was going to finish out. He had I can't remember, hip replacement surgery. He's running around on crutches and banging crutches, and it was in Iowa. The NCAA tournament was in Iowa, and we didn't wrestle. We didn't wrestle poorly. And I'm trying to remember. Gosh, I'm getting so old, but obviously Guerrero won. I won. Schmidt was in the finals. I can't remember if we had 6. I mean, we had probably 6, 7 All-Americans that year. You would know. Yeah, and Mark was the number 1 seed, but and I don't remember exactly where he finished, but we had a good tournament, but Iowa had the tournament of all tournaments, and then following that, they lost some of their big guns that year. I think they lost Full Heart, they lost McElravy, they lost Whitmer, who had a magical run, had an unbelievable tournament, but they lost a lot of points, and we didn't lose a lot. But coming back, I remember Steven Schmidt tore his ACL when he was undefeated and ranked number 1. And that happened after the Big 12 tournament in practice. I mean, it was just almost like a black cat, a black cloud kind of following us there. And then, you know what, our team chemistry was not. And I don't think, me personally, I was transitioning from athlete to coach. I don't think I recognized how significant that was, that our team chemistry wasn't amazing. In 2003, it was amazing. In 2004, I mean, that streak that we went on, it was all about team chemistry. It was about guys with unique personalities that really melded together. And then they had attitudes. They had the right attitudes. They had a chip on their shoulder. And there was that fine line between cockiness, confidence, but also just fun. I mean, it was a fun group. Muhammad Lual, was a little borderline. I mean, at that point, golly, I don't know how Coach Smith handled it. I know we as assistants, it was like constantly trying to kind of rein him in. And to be honest, it was just wrestling hadn't really been exposed to that. I mean, he painted his shoes gold, and he had so much flair to him, and a lot of people rubbed him the wrong way. But those personalities really, they fed off of each other, and that's what we didn't have in I would say 90, 97, 98, 99. We didn't have that chemistry.
Guy that was at your weight class, or the comparable, you were at 167, and of course 174 would be the weight class after 98 when they moved the weight classes up. Chris Pendleton placed third that year. Chris, he was on your staff for a while. What did he bring to the team that was unique and maybe helped out with winning in 2003?
He was kind of in the middle of that, and you'll see this a lot of times where you'll have maybe you talk about like Murderers Row, and you've heard about that with different teams. You look at Iowa right now, and you look at Spencer Lee, and then you're coming out with DeSanto, and you're talking about those 1-2 punches, which in 97, 99, we had Teague Moore and Eric Guerrero. I mean, when you have that 1-2 punch, man, I tell you what, that's a huge boost for a team. Well, what we had was a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We had, and Chris was kind of that link that connected the Muhammad Luals, the Jake Rocholts, the Steve Makos to the Zach Espositos, and it was kind of that connection. And those guys, like I said, the chemistry was amazing. But you had Jersey, you had California, you had Texas. I mean, you just had these kind of weird. You had El Reno in there with Tyrone Lewis, Shane Roller with Bigsby, Oklahoma. You had this strange mix of guys with such different backgrounds, different personalities, different upbringings, and I think Chris was really integral in kind of being that middle piece. Not only with his weight when he kind of stuck in the middle of the lineup of that Murderers Row, but also just kind of his demeanor. He was really good about connecting with guys from everywhere. And I remember like some of those guys didn't connect well at first. I know when Steve Mako came in to the program, there was a little conflict there with some of those Oklahoma, those Cowboys, those Oklahoma farm kid Cowboys, and this guy from the East. And there always needed to be kind of that guy to stand in the middle going, hey, we're brothers, man. We're on the same team. And it didn't take long for that to become where there might have been a little conflict for a second, but that conflict turned into those guys had themselves back to back ready to take on the world. And it was pretty cool. They had some amazing bonds. And I think Chris was an important part of that bond.
I want to verify this because I've heard it from Pat Smith, who was an assistant coach on that team. I've heard it from Chris Pendleton, who we were talking about. I've heard that Tyrone Lewis was an absolute monster in the practice room. Like, he was world champ, Olympic champ in the wrestling room. Like, nobody could touch him. Is that true from your experience?
Unbelievable. And that was right out of the gate. And I hadn't experienced anything that in my, I would say in my more mature phase of wrestling, because of course my first few years I'd get my butt kicked by a lot of guys in the room, Pat Smith, but a lot of guys. But by the time I was a senior and then into my coaching, it's like none of these young guys were going to come in and sniff me personally. It's like, and there was almost that like, hey, we got to show these guys what it's about, right? Like we got to teach them, because we went through it, right? Like nobody took it easy on me. They beat the tar out of me and go, this is what Oklahoma State's wrestling is about, so you better get used to it. So that was like your job. Like I got to make sure these guys that come into the room know what they're signing up for, and then all of a sudden you come into contact with Tyrone Lewis, and you're like, wait a minute, what just happened? You're like, okay, I'm not gonna let that happen again. And I tell you, I say this, and it's true. Like, I had the wrestling IQ, I had the experience. And so once I figured out, like, God, this kid's the real deal, then it became strategy for me to go, okay, I need to push him to his best, highest level. So I need to go out and whoop him. I need to put the whooping on him. So how am I going to do that? So anytime I'd wrestle him, I would step out, and in my mind I was making, which I didn't do this with anybody else, but I'd make these adjustments to go, okay, I know he's quick. I know he's coming fast off the whistle. I got to break down. I got to get defensive. If I stop his first couple of attempts, then I felt pretty good. Like I can take this match over. And no matter what I did, and this was his entire career, when that whistle blew, he was going to get the first takedown every time. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, Steve Mocco. That wasn't the case with Steve Mocco. Right? Like I could go compete against Steve Mocco, and I could use strategy to wrestle Steve Mocco. I couldn't find any strategy to stop Tyrone from coming out and taking me down the first time. Now, here's the problem. I'd get up, he couldn't ride me, and then I couldn't figure out a way to keep him from taking me down the second time. That's when I really get mad. I'm like, are you kidding me? Now, I'd eventually try to get on top. I'd eventually reverse him, or he'd try to pick neutral. I remember times where I'm like, no, you're not going neutral. You're going down. And if I could get on top of him and wear him down, then I could shift the tide. But I'm going to tell you what, those first two takedowns, I couldn't ever strategize and figure out how to stop it. He was a beast. And he did that to everybody in the room. It was unbelievable.
Well, we got to put you on the spot here. 03 Oklahoma State versus 97 Iowa. It might look like you have a Iowa shirt there underneath. I don't know. Is that a black and gold? Oh, okay. Just kidding with you. Who do you pick winning here? I mean, unbiased. I know you're Oklahoma State. You competed against Iowa. Who do you think wins this in a dynasty duel?
I say, so here's the problem. Like we talk about duels, and our duel team in 97 beat that 97 team. And I'm trying to remember, and I think McElravy was out for that duel, but I also think he would have had to maybe I can't remember, but he would have had to get either a tech or a pin, to change that duel. That was the only guy I think they had out. If I remember correctly, he would have had to get a tech or a pin to change the outcome of that duel. And we had, if I remember, Jimmy Arias, an All-American, who, Lincoln was kind of, he was definitely different that year with the concussions. He wasn't putting up the kind of numbers. So we felt like, hey, even if McElravy's in that duel, we win that duel. So it's close, obviously, but we felt like we win that duel anyway. So it's hard to not go with my guys, It's hard to not go with my guys. I'm not going to go against my guys. You're not going to get me today. I'm not going to go against my guys.
Okay.
But I will say that individual, that tournament that the 97 team put together, I unfortunately had to sit there and witness it firsthand, and it was mind-boggling. I mean, to see the bonus points that they put up, the performances, like I said, of Jesse Whitmer, and they put everything together. McElravy finishing out with a national championship, after having a really tough year with the injury, but that will always go down as one of the best, if not the best, NCAA championship team performances. So I can't, I don't want to knock out that 97 team, but I'm going to stay with my guys just because I have to. I still hang out with those guys and see them all the time. So they were a special group, and I tell you what people don't realize, what I was saying at the beginning was all the demons they were fighting, they were the best team, but they had a lot of baggage that they were carrying that shouldn't have been their baggage. It was part of our baggage. There was a stigma, and I remember leaving the NCAA tournament, and it was either 2001 or 2002. I remember leaving our after party, and some old Oklahoma State fans were outside, and they were, the old white jacket guys. They had the satin white jackets. You could tell they've been around forever. And they were like, they asked me, they were like, are you guys going to get it done? And they're like, do you think that we need to make some changes, coaching changes? And I'm like, we're going to get it done. I'm like, it's coming into place. And I really felt like it was the pieces of the puzzle were kind of falling into place. And I truly believed it, but convincing those guys on that team that they were going to get the job done wasn't easy. And they were special because of that. It was a special group. So pretty cool to see the start of something amazing that we had going there for several years.
And then how cool is it that they have the Mark Branch Gymnasium in Newkirk, Oklahoma?
Well, it's really cool, but they just the high school just built a new gymnasium. I haven't seen it yet. They still have the old gymnasium that I think I don't know what their plans are. I think they're using it, that the wrestling room is attached, but so I don't know if it'll be there much longer, but I take some pictures when I go back just because you don't know. Yeah. Next time I go back, it may not be there. So it's pretty cool. It's been a fun run, and that's life of growing up in a town of about 1,500 people. You get to stand out if you do something cool. So it's been an honor, obviously, to have stuff like that. I try to I kind of wonder what my kids think. So when I'm back, I make sure and look, there's a gym with my name.
Yeah.
Make sure my kids remember that stuff.
Well, thanks for breaking down this. You have a unique perspective going against Iowa in 97 and then coaching Oklahoma State, but thanks for breaking this down, and can't wait to see how this turns out.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle.